Alright, I'm going to talk to you about estimating percents. Now, before I talk to you about estimating percents, I want to talk to you about estimating in general. When do you estimate? Well, I think the most common answer is to check your work after you're done a problem. And I think that that's probably the best answer. Other occurrences for estimating, when it's not essential to have the exact answer, when you want to do the work quickly, that's a good time to estimate. Certainly we don't have a calculator, although nowadays everybody seems to have a calculator on their phone. But anyway, those are some examples. So that's why we're doing this. And it says Peter spent 12 hours and 20 minutes on his homework last week. He spent 75% of that time on math homework. About how much time did he spend on math homework last week? So I'm going to talk to you a couple of different ways about, going about solving this. Do whatever you're most comfortable with. It's estimating. So when you're estimating, there's not an exact way to get the right answer, and there really isn't a right answer because it's just about getting near what we would actually perceive to be the exact answer, if that makes sense. So you're going to estimate the time you spend on homework, first of all. 12 hours and 20 minutes, that's kind of general. I'm just going to round that to 12 hours. Maybe you'd round it to 10 hours too. You could do that. I'm going to round it to 12 hours. Estimate the percent to a more friendly number, such as anything ending with 0. So like 10% or 20%. If the number said 22%, you'd want to round it to 20%. If it said 79%, you'd probably want to round that to 80%. 25% is a friendly number because you probably know that that's 1/4, and if you don't, you should become familiar with that. And 75% is like 3/4 is a fraction. So in this case, it's already kind of a friendly number. So we'll leave that as such. So we're just going to leave 75% there. And then simplify the fraction if need be. So the fraction here, this is 75 out of 100% means per 100. And 25 is the GCF, the greatest common factor here. So we could divide both 75 and 100 by 25. And if you did that, you'd get 3/4 as your fraction in simplest form. You could also do divided by other numbers to get to this point. You could divide by 5 and then certainly divide by 5 again. So we get 3/4 as our fraction in simplest form. And now basically what the problem comes down to is, what is 3/4 of 12 hours? 3/4 of 12 hours. So 12 is going to be the number that we put in the numerator up here, and then we have 1 right here on the bottom, because 12 divided by 1, it still equals 12 hours. Okay? Once you have the problem set up like this, if you're familiar with how to multiply fractions, you could do that. You could just multiply the numerators together, multiply the denominators together. You could cross reduce here, so I'll show you that. This will cross out, we'll make that a 1, and since 12 goes into 4 3 times, we'd make the 12 a 3. All I did was divide 12 by 4 and 4 by 4, and you'd get 3 times 3 is 9, 1 times 1 is 1. So you could write this as 9 over 1, or more simply, just 9 hours. Another way to think about it, if we had like a bar diagram here, and that bar represents 12 hours, and we broke it into sections of fourths, right? Because we talked about 3/4. Well, the whole thing is 12 hours long. So what's halfway for this 12 hours long? Well, halfway would be 6 hours. So each one of these, you could think about them representing 3 hours. 3 hours and 3 hours, that's 6 hours. 3 more hours, that's 9 hours. 3 more hours, that's 12 hours. That's a terrible looking 3. But I think you heard me, so hopefully that makes sense. 3 hours in each of those. And since it's 3/4 that we're talking about this one right here. We're talking about this one right here. That's a total of 6. And the third fourth is right here for a total of 9 hours. A couple different ways of looking at it. Let's see another example here, and I'll even solve this another way. A family went on a hiking trip. They set out to hike a total distance of 29 miles. Their goal was to do 25%. Now look at that. That number, remember we talked about on the last slide? You want to get these numbers to be friendly. 25, a friendly number. We know that's 1/4. About how many miles will they hike on Saturday? So 1/4 of 29 is pretty much what we're looking at. If you think about 1/4 of, say, 40, that's 10, right? So this is going to be less than 10 if you want to think of it like that. And then I just think about, well, what are numbers that 4 goes into that are near 29? 28's near it, 32. So you could use one of those, maybe change 29 miles to a number that's going to be divisible by 4. So maybe 28, since that's closer than 32. So 1/4 of 28, or in other words, 28 divided by 4, is 7 miles. So the family would do about 7 miles on Saturday. If we were looking at it, with that bar again, again we would divide this by sections of 4 because the question said 1/4, 25%. That's 1/4, and all we would color in this time, assuming that the whole bar length is 28 miles, is just one of the bars, and one of the bars would have to equal 7 because the midway point would be 14. Last one I'm going to show you. Erica just finished making the yearbook. Hey, congrats, Erica. In the yearbook, 47% of the pictures are 6th graders. Wow, 8th graders got cheated. The yearbook has 896 pictures. About how many of these pictures are of 6th graders? And you're going to use a rate per 100 to estimate. Let me just explain what this means. All they're saying is that, how I was telling you, let's get more friendly numbers. They're saying use the more friendly number of rounding to the nearest 100 when they say use a rate per 100. So if we have 900 pictures, and let's change this number to a more friendly number, I think that's really close to 50%. 50% is another term for half. So all we're looking at, this number changes to 900. What's half of 900? That's all there is to this. Half of 900. Well, that's about, if you do the math out here, 900 divided by 2. 800 divided by 2 would be 400, so it's going to be more than 400. 1,000 divided by 2 would be 500, so it's not quite 400, it's not quite 500. It's going to equal 450 if you do this out. So there would be about 450 pictures, and I could just write the 0 in up here. Hopefully that explains how to estimate percents.